What if these things disappeared from Earth? Imagine waking up on an ordinary morning, but within seconds, some of the most important things in our world begin to disappear. Water, oxygen, plants, gravity, the moon, and even the sun. What would happen if each one disappeared? Let's start with the first one, oxygen. What if oxygen disappeared for just 5 seconds? Imagine all the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere suddenly disappearing for only 5 seconds. You might think that's not a big deal because humans can hold their breath for 5 seconds. But the problem is much bigger than breathing. Oxygen makes up about 21% of Earth's atmosphere. If oxygen gas suddenly disappeared, atmospheric pressure would drop significantly, and combustion that depends on oxygen would stop. Fire. It goes out, and many engines that depend on burning fuel would stop working. But there's something important. Buildings would not turn into dust, and the oxygen inside rocks and concrete would not disappear because it is chemically bonded to other elements. After 5 seconds, the oxygen returns. But what if it never came back? That's when the real catastrophe begins. Humans, animals, and most organisms that depend on aerobic respiration would no longer be able to produce energy normally. Fires would go out and ecosystems would begin to collapse. And the oxygen inside Earth's crust, that's different. Oxygen is a major element in rocks and makes up about 46% of Earth's crust by mass. But that's not the oxygen gas we breathe. So in short, Earth wouldn't disappear. But losing the oxygen in the atmosphere would completely transform our world. Water. Now imagine something even crazier. What if all the water on Earth suddenly disappeared? The oceans, the rivers, the lakes, the groundwater, and even the water inside living organisms. Everything disappears. The first thing we'd see would be the ocean floors exposed. But the real catastrophe starts immediately after. Water isn't just something we drink. It's essential for life, climate, and countless biological processes. Without water, plants couldn't survive. Animals couldn't survive. Agriculture would collapse, and ecosystems would begin to disappear. And it wouldn't just be a problem of thirst, because living organisms themselves contain large amounts of water. In other words, Earth wouldn't simply become a planet without oceans. It would become an environment where life, as we know it, could no longer continue. Plants. Now let's look at something that's everywhere around us. Plants. Imagine every plant on Earth disappearing in a single moment. Trees, grass, crops, wild plants. Everything is gone. Would oxygen run out immediately? No. And this is important. Earth's atmosphere already contains a huge amount of oxygen, so humans wouldn't suffocate instantly. But the real catastrophe would be food. Plants are the foundation of countless food chains. Animals that depend on plants would begin to die. Then animals that depend on them would be affected too. And human agriculture would collapse almost immediately because the crops themselves would be gone. But here's the surprising part. Land plants aren't the only source of oxygen. The oceans contain microscopic photosynthetic organisms called phytoplankton. Together, ocean ecosystems produce roughly half of Earth's oxygen. So the disappearance of land plants wouldn't make the oxygen disappear immediately, but it would begin a massive collapse of food supplies and ecosystems on land. Gravity now, for one of the strangest scenarios. What if Earth's gravity disappeared for 5 seconds? Of course, this is impossible under normal conditions. But let's imagine it somehow happened. In the first moment, things wouldn't simply float peacefully like in the movies. Objects would stop accelerating toward the ground because of gravity. Anything not fixed in place would begin moving according to its existing speed and direction. Air and water would also be affected. But no, the oceans wouldn't suddenly fly into space. Earth wouldn't explode, and volcanoes wouldn't suddenly erupt everywhere. Those are exaggerations. The real danger would come when gravity returned. Objects that had moved or risen would begin falling again. The result could be extremely chaotic and dangerous, and the amount of damage would depend on where everything was and how it moved during those 5 seconds. And by the way, if you've heard that a solar eclipse makes Earth's gravity disappear for several seconds, that's false. A solar eclipse does not cancel Earth's gravity. The moon. What if the moon suddenly disappeared? Look up at the sky. The moon is gone. Suddenly. The first major change would be the tides. The moon's gravity is the biggest factor controlling Earth's tides, although the sun also contributes. So the tides wouldn't disappear completely, but they would become much weaker. The moon also helps stabilize the tilt of Earth's rotational axis over long periods of time. Without it, that stability could change, potentially affecting Earth's climate over very long periods, and nights would become much darker. But no, Earth wouldn't stop rotating, it wouldn't explode, and we wouldn't fly into space. Those are exaggerations. The disappearance of the moon would be a massive event, but many of its biggest effects would appear gradually. The sun. And now we've reached the most dangerous question. What if the sun disappeared for just 1 minute? We wouldn't notice immediately. Why? Because sunlight takes about 8 minutes and 20 seconds to reach Earth. So even if the sun disappeared right now, we would continue seeing its light for about 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Then, daytime would suddenly become dark. But there's something even stranger. We wouldn't immediately feel the change in the sun's gravity either. That effect would also take about 8 minutes and 20 seconds to reach us. During that time, Earth would continue moving according to its current velocity, instead of following its normal orbit around the sun. And if the sun returned, its light and gravitational influence would take another 8 minutes and 20 seconds to reach Earth. But what if the sun disappeared forever? After the last sunlight and gravitational influence reached us, Earth would no longer remain in its normal orbit around the sun. It would move approximately along a tangent to its former orbit, while temperatures would begin falling over time. Life as we know it would face a massive catastrophe. And that's when we realize something frightening. The sun isn't just the light in our sky. It's the primary source of energy that makes Earth's surface suitable for life, ending oxygen, water, plants, gravity, the moon, and the sun. They seem ordinary because we live with them every day. But imagine just one of them disappearing. And suddenly, we realize how strange and carefully balanced our world really is. So here's the question. Which one of these would be the most dangerous to lose? Write your answer in the comments, because the next episode might be about things far more dangerous.